Welcome back to Who Yelling Now? Season 2, Episode 6, Judgment and Death. Copyright Mackenzie for entertainment purposes only. In every story of power, there comes the reckoning. The moment when the crowd turns, when the hero sharpens his sword, when the villain is dragged into the light of judgment. But tonight, this isn't a trial for justice. This is a theater, a spectacle, a story written before the accused even opens their mouth. Episode 6 is Judgment and Death, the final curtain, the verdict of history written in smoke and silence. Villains don't get juries, they get stages. They don't get compassion, they get cages. And when the sentence comes, it isn't just a death. It is a conclusion, a lesson hammered into the world. Ignore pain, ignore silence, ignore despair, and it will teach you its name in fire. Poem 1. My trial was a stage. They dressed me in blame, clothed me not in cloth, but in accusations. I sat on a throne of guilt. My crown, every rumor sharpened into stone. The trial was not a trial. It was a stage. They sold tickets. The audience gasped, not at the truth, but at the performance. They told my story like a scandal. The parts they liked, they magnified. The parts that made them complicit, they cut. They never asked what built the blade. They only gasped when it cut. And so the theater cheered while justice starved. When trials become a theater, villains are not judged, they are consumed. Poem 2. Villain on Trial. They wrote my name in the blackest ink, etched into the headlines, whispered it in prayer groups, shouted it across tavern tables, but never paused to truly think, never asked why I bled in silence first. I bled for them. I sacrificed for them. I raised my voice when they begged for defense. And when I collapsed, they clapped. They called me a villain for falling where no one else would stand. Until their golden boy snapped back, until the one they adored showed the cracks I was born with, then suddenly they called him misunderstood and me irredeemable. Poem 3. I didn't die. I concluded. I didn't die with screams. I went with stillness. My last act was not collapse. It was conclusion. A villain's death isn't an accident. It's a design. Each scar a sentence. Each silence a paragraph. Each betrayal the ink that wrote my ending. Do not call it a tragedy. It was a manuscript. I wrote it with every tear, every ignored plea, every locked door. And when the final page turned, I closed it gently. That was my power. From conclusion comes legacy. Ashes still speak, even when tongues are burned away. Poem 4, Legacy in Ashes. They burned me down and cheered aloud. The crowd glowed with my flames. They built their thrones upon my shroud, hammered their laws into my bones. But seeds do not die in fire. They root deeper. They crack open. They bloom in rage and rise in silence. Ashes do not erase. Ashes remember. Every cheer was soil. Every jeer was water. From my ruin, new names rise. Poem 5. I dream of silence now. Not screams, not sirens, not applause that feels like knives. Just the quiet that never loved me, the quiet that once ignored me, now holds me like a coffin. I dream of silence because I lived too long in noise, because peace was never given, only chased. Let me sleep. Let the silence at last be kind. But silence does not last. Even in death, the echoes remain. Poem 6. The Echo Room. They locked me in the echo room. Every word I spoke came back warped, twisted, poisoned. I said, "Help!" It came back weak. I said, "Love." It came back naive. I said, "Hurt." It came back laughter. Even shadows say goodbye. And so I screamed. But by then, it was too late. The walls had already memorized me. Poem 7. This wasn't a plan. It was a response. You think I plotted? You think I schemed? No. I reacted. Villains are not architects of chaos. They are the storms. You cursed when you ignored the weather. I was the flood you refused to prepare for. The lightning you mocked when it struck. The response to your arrogance. You think I wanted this? I wanted peace. But you wanted silence and my destruction. And so the storm rose. Ignore pain long enough, and you do not prevent villains. You create blueprints. Poem 8. Blueprint for the next one. Please, ignore the quiet kid again. Tell him anger is just a phase. Tell her grief is weakness. Dismiss the grin that doesn't reach the eyes. Keep telling pain it must behave. Keep punishing silence with more silence. And watch. Watch the next one rise from the grave, not as themselves, but as your warning. Poem 9. If I had been loved. If someone had said, "You are not too much." If someone had stayed after my first outburst, if someone had seen the tremor, the plea, the need, maybe there'd be no fire here. Maybe the blade would still be steel, not blood. Maybe the storm would have passed quietly. If I had been loved, you wouldn't be reading this complaint. Poem 10. Prevention. To stop a villain, look before the cage slams, before the floor burns, before the silent cracks. See the boy who hides his scream. See the girl who turns anger inward. See the man who pretends he doesn't care. Prevention is not a miracle. It is attention. It is love given in time. It is the hand that holds instead of the hand that points. Well, my friends, thank you for listening again. Judgment is not always justice. Death is not always defeat. A villain's story rarely ends in silence, for ashes still speak, echoes still return, and blueprints are always left behind. If you wish to stop the next villain, do not wait for their trial. Do not wait for their death. Look earlier. Listen sooner. Because villains were always warnings, and the warnings were ignored. This has been Who Yelling Now? Episode 6, Judgment and Death. The storm does not end here, my friends. It only waits for the next silence. See you in the next episode.